So I've come out today to collect some hand drill materials. It's absolutely pissing down here. I'm going to be collecting some elder and also some ivy for the hearth board. Okay, I'm going to collect the green and then dry it out. That's always the best way if you're learning. That's the best way because you can gather a lot of materials without having to collect the perfect piece first time. Dry it out in your house and then you can do lots of experimentation. That's what I did when I first learned. At this stage, having a lot of experience, I can now go out and try to get the materials to use then and there. Now, the perfect materials are very hard to come by. For every drill you collect, you know, it mightn't work because you might get 1 in 10 that is good enough, because if they're even slightly decayed, they just don't work. So we'll see what we can find. I don't know if you can hear the rain, but it's hammering down here. Take you over to this little shelter here that one of our students made. The little debris hut. It's actually surprisingly dry in there. Considering most of the debris has been pulled off. Kids would come through here now and again, which I don't actually mind, because all they seem to do is build shelters. They just copy what we have done, which is probably the best form of teaching. So, anyway, back to the task at hand. A really nice roll of bark, I suspect. I know who's put that there. That's a nice bit of ash. I just saw a fox. He was sheltering from the rain. I'll see if I can see him again. I know he's about here somewhere because I can hear the birds. No, he's gone. Whenever I'm out collecting hand drills and hearth material, I always like to bring a big knife because it's just very handy. Today I've got my Luku with me. It's the Heli Laplander. As you can see, it's quite big, razor sharp, stainless steel, very good for the Northern Irish climate. it's so wet. So we'll go about and have a wee look here and see what kind of ivy I can find. What we're looking for is something that is at least twice as thick across as the base of your pinky finger. Ivy grows in old woodlands, basically. It grows everywhere, really. You'll find it everywhere, but this is the kind of typical leaf here. Alright. Typical leaf. It goes from about that thick up to this thick. Okay, so you see there, that's a nice thick piece there. It can be quite hard to get these pieces off because they're well welded on. But if you keep looking, where there's one, there's always more. So we'll take a section of that ivy out. Here's some over here. The other thing about ivy is it can be under tension. So whenever you cut it, it can sometimes slide and hit you in the face. So be careful. Let's get rid of this snowberry. Whenever you're going to cut something, always make sure that you've cleared a good area around, that when you're swinging it doesn't catch, okay? Or when you hit something that it can fly off, you know, a nice safety zone it should be called. So there's a nice piece of ivy there. Alright. So we'll take this out. So there we have a nice piece. So next we can take all the outer bark off. I'll just continue on. So whenever you're collecting it, try and make sure that you get as straight a piece as possible. I've removed all the outer bark off this. Remove the outer bark because it'll dry a lot faster. Right, the bark retains the moisture. The straighter you get it, the less kind of shaping you'll have to do. So whenever this is dried, I'll actually show you a piece I prepared earlier. We will make it into a rectangle shape, okay? Probably about as thick as your pinky. Twice as wide as your hand drill, and about that length, because it means you can put something on it to steady it whenever you're drilling into it, whether it be your foot or, you know, whatever, a couple of pegs, it doesn't really matter. Anyway, there we go. I'll collect a few more of these, but I also want to show you how to collect the drills too. Here's more ivy. Okay, it's a nice piece there. Nothing really apart from ivy grows like this. Okay, it'll form nearly a cage up the tree. Usually gets thinner towards the top, and it's just like anything else, it gets thicker every year. Thicker every year. There's the classic leaf. The interesting thing about ivy is the leaf tip, which is here, nearly shows you the perfect size for your bow drill notch. So if you put the tip of the leaf on, you can nearly mark it around, okay, on your bow drill. You can see how wet it is. Look at the ground. What we call lashing. I like being out in the woods when it's raining, because very seldom you ever run into anybody else. It's nice to have a bit of solitude. So we're looking for elder now. Some nice straight elder wands. Now there's lots and lots of elder here, but straight wands, perfectly straight wands, which is what we want, are a wee bit harder to come by. We're also looking for at least second year growth. Now this is an elder, okay? I've gone into this before. There's the leaf of an elder. Looks very like an ash leaf. The bark has these little warts all over it. Opposite shoots. A very distinctive smell. Smells like cat pee to some people. And you'll always get these little straight wands here. Okay, elder. See that? Just comes straight off, going towards the light. They also have a blackberry and a white, creamy white flower. But that bush isn't any good, so we'll keep going. Here's a perfect elder hand drill of the future. Okay. Look how straight that is. I'll keep an eye on this one. Now it's not really any good because it's still green, which means it's probably only early growth. Now, but when I'm sticking it in here, it doesn't actually seem that bad. Could be just green because it's still getting plenty of light, so the tree hasn't stopped producing chlorophyll in it. So I'll just cut this one and we'll have a look, see what it's like. That's basically a perfect width, right, about as thick as the base of your pinky. So we'll cut it off nice and low, leave this little shoot and a new one might grow. Yeah, so if you look here, see how thick the outer wall is? That's what you want, a good thick outer wall. Okay, so we'll trim that off flat. We'll take all the bark off again. Look how straight that is. Right, really straight. That's a perfect hand drill there. Take that home, dry it out over a couple of days with the bark off, and it'll be really good. I'll leave that nice and long because the longer the drill, basically the more action you have. There's where I cut it off. Now the wee side branch did come off, but there's plenty of elder here, so I'm not too worried. Just want to show you how thick the wall is on it. Very thick. You're talking maybe 3 mil or so, which is just what you want, a good thick wall. Very often in a heavy downpour, you'll get little streams running off trees. That's a great place to collect water if you don't have anything else to lay out, alright? Now's the time to collect a lot of water if it's been dry. The river will be swelling quite heavily and churning up all sorts of crap from the riverbed. So if you can get good rainwater, that's the stuff to drink. So I'm just going to take the bark off this bit of elder. A really good complement to a big knife is a small razor sharp pocket knife, which is what I have here. That's a little foul knife in U2, which I've had for many years, and is a really sharp knife. It holds an edge really well. It's laminate steel, but it's like a pocket scalpel basically, which is what you kind of want in a pocket knife. You're never going to do any heavy work with it, so it's always nice to have something razor sharp. Alright, anyway, let's get on with this job. When you take the outer bark off, it's going to be really wet underneath. Apart from the fact that it's pissing down on it, of course. But the sap is going to be very wet. It's always a good idea whenever you handle elder or even ivy to wash your hands, because they're both poisonous. Alright, some parts of it you can eat, not the ivy, the elder. But it's always a good idea to wash your hands, okay? Or even rinse them as best you can. So, there we go. No bark on it, that'll dry it nicely. I'll trim off the end here, and I'll go and collect a few more. Basically that's it, guys. Ivy and elder, a very good combination. Make sure it's as dry as you can get it. On a day like this, to go out and collect a set, I mean, it's virtually impossible, right? Unless over a few days, if you can start to build a bit of a foundation, get somewhere dry, a dry space, you can start to then make things, get a fire, you can dry stuff out on it, but obviously getting the fire in the first place is the difficult part, and that's why you always need to carry some method of fire making with you. I always carry a fire steel. I'm completely soaked. I know my fire steel's soaked because my trousers are wet, but I know it'll still work. That's called Irish rain.